According to how you set up the lesson, what do you think went well?
I really liked that initial activity where I had the trifold and I had them bring up the post-it notes. Because obviously it's fun at first, and if you caught it in the video and when you were there in the lesson, at first they ran up and they're like, "Oh, I don't know anything about this." That's like an easy out. But once we get over that initial hurdle and we all laugh about it, they go back and they start to research a little bit and they realize what the event was, and then they get more interested. And then as we proceeded through the lesson, you could see how much more invested they were just doing a little bit of independent research and then building up to what we had to learn. So I thought I really like that trifold activity. I'll probably do it for a lot of other things.
Wonderful. So, what I'm hearing is that you liked how you set up the intro of the lesson with tapping into their prior knowledge and setting up kind of instructional support so that they could access the information. And so that ties into the CSTPs that we chose. And so looking at and thinking about 1.2, 2.1, and 4.5. So, what I'm hearing is that you touched on 1.2 with this opening lesson to kind of tap into their prior knowledge of an event that happened in LA, which touches into their life experiences
Mhm.
and where they live, and so making that relevant. So, as we continue our conversation, we'll continue to talk about the CSTPs and how you might have focused on them throughout your lesson. All right. Okay. So, what thinking back in the lesson, what would you strengthen or what would you identify as an area of growth? And then thinking about your work samples, do you feel the students met the learning goal?
So an area of growth would be, I think, synthesis of information. So throughout the year, we've done reading on things that are relevant, that can easily connect to the topic at hand. So we read The Hate You Give and A Raisin in the Sun in particular. So I like leading into the lesson, I would have liked to see the students connected more, going back to one of those two texts. But I think that comes down to me. I probably should emphasize that more to the students and maybe refresh them on each of those texts themselves. So, there's some to be left for the student, but then it also falls on me to remind them of what we read and how to make those connections and, briefly summarize those things. So, because, they'll forget. We all forget, but especially the kids, like, once we let it go, I'm sure they completely forgot about it. But reminding them about that and making those connections probably would have been a really strong area of growth, I think.
Amazing. So what I'm hearing is that you want to focus more on synthesis and hitting that CSTP that focuses on the rigor of the content. And with that, you want to be able to tie in previous novels or texts that you have used and just kind of make sure that you fold that into the newer lesson so that you remind them of that through line and common thread. I agree that that definitely helps because with, sometimes with content, like you said, we all forget. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel that that would be very helpful. And I agree that that would be a good strategy to then tie in that information and then solidify it with previous texts or novels that you all have gone through. Um, so let's see. Do you feel that the student looking at these work samples, do you feel that they still met the learning goals, even though you felt like synthesis was an area of growth?
Yeah. So the essay, the vocab, that's a bell ringer. So that's that kind of encapsulates itself. That's just a
Mhm.
daily thing. So I think tying that back into the lesson is probably more, again, falls on me. I probably should tie that more and be more conscious of what words I'm using on what day, but that gets tricky. But with
Mhm.
the discussion post, yeah, because I wanted them to be able to understand the context and just get